I had to lean in to figure out what is it that needs to happen in order to get me to the other side.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I also asked myself was, there has to be an easier way to do this, right? We're uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
We have become a society of comfort. We don't want to get uncomfortable. Helping people, business owners realize that one of the things that we like to say is delegate to elevate, and being able to let go of the vine, because we will be, as business owners, the biggest and greatest bottlenecks preventing us from that growth. We do, right?
Yeah.
And we just keep telling ourselves that story, that narrative in our mind, and keep playing that reel-to-reel tape over and over again, and then go, why isn't anything working?
Yeah.
Why am I stuck, and why can't I get to the next level?
Okay, so here we are, another episode of Rate of Success, and I am extremely honored to have MZ. He is a EOS implementer.
That's correct.
I want to make sure I get this right.
That's it.
So we're going to talk a lot about what that means, how we met, but why don't you tell me a little bit about your current role right now, and maybe a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me here.
Yes.
I'm super excited about being on the podcast. I love the name of the podcast. What was it?
Rate of Success.
Rate of Success.
Yes.
Wow, that's brilliant. Did you come up with that?
ChatGPT did.
No.
Yeah.
Gotta watch
yes,
that.
I came up with it, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
You typed it in, right?
Exactly,
And then
exactly.
went with it. Yeah. So, yes, I'm a EOS implementer.
Okay.
Which means that I help small business owners and their leadership teams implement EOS. And EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is really a discipline that helps small business owners be able to run their business in an efficient way that helps them get more of what they want from their businesses.
That's great. So my, kind of path, where we kind of connected is I read a book called Traction, which EOS is really based off of. And Traction was something that kind of changed my outlook on my business. I was kind of struggling, always kind of running, around in circles. We talked a little bit about this, but I read this book, Traction, and now it's something that I listen to almost, quarterly.
Right.
Or when I'm in this struggle. So we met through Juliet, who's my production manager, who saw you speak, and I was incredibly excited to have you come out, and you spoke at one of my events, which I thought was amazing. But, you have this ability to go out and talk to all these companies, but obviously your journey didn't always, end up there. Like, what was the path, and how even the motivation to even want to do something like this?
Right.
Like, what did that look like, and how did you get kind of fall into this?
Yeah, the journey starts back when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
At the age of 7 or 8, I knew that I wanted to be in business for myself. And that was difficult, especially in the early years of going to school.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what all of that meant, because our educational system kind of puts us in a box, Eric. And school really didn't get me at all. And I didn't get school. It's like I knew that this wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So finally, when I graduated from high school, I did have an opportunity to go to Minnesota through a scholarship, because I was the captain of the gymnastics team.
Okay.
And I knew that, I really didn't want to continue with school. Here I am, 18, going on 19. I knew I wanted to start a business, and, mom and dad are like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to start a business. And they kind of looked at me with a, side eye, like, what do you know about business? I'm like, I'm going to figure it out, but I know that I'm not going to school. I'm going to start a business. So I actually started my business at the age of 19, and along the way, as the business grew, I even had an opportunity to expand. And I went to a bank, right?
Yeah.
I went to a lender. I put together a business plan, right? Here I am, 19, figuring out, I need more money. And when I walked in with the business plan and the banker looked at it, right, going through it, and asked me, "Where'd you go to school?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't go to school." And he says, "Well, how'd you learn how to do this?" I said, I taught myself, right? I went to the library and learned what it means to run a business and put together a plan. He says, "Hold on a second." And he comes back and he has the bank president sit with me. And of course, they wanted to give me the money. And, I was off and running. So, I think the lesson in that is, if you really want to do something, you're really passionate about it, you're going to figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's really about that will to do that. So I ran that business, which was an event production business, specializing in staging and lighting for a lot of Fortune 500 company type events. But, we did things for the city of Chicago and sports celebration for when the Bulls won championships and different events. I'm sure, people don't realize it. They've probably seen some of the things that I've done through the city of Chicago. I worked with the presidents for a couple of decades. I was the go-to person for when the presidents of the United States came to the Midwest area, right? The whole beyond just Chicagoland. So got to work with them, kind of hang out with them, and, met them here and there. And so, I ran that business for 40 years.
Wow.
Eric. And, along the way, to stay in business for 40 years, you have to iterate, right? You have to reinvent yourself, especially when technology changes and new things get introduced. So the ebb and flow of running a business is really challenging, like we were talking about here early on, right? Yeah. And when business gets difficult, I had to lean in to figure out what is it that needs to happen in order to get me to the other side.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I also asked myself was, there has to be an easier way to do this, right? Hit the ceiling. I need to figure it out. And being a student of business and liking to read, I came across the book Traction, right? Just like you.
Yeah.
And I gave it a read and had it implemented into my business. And the first year that I implemented EOS, I increased my profits 112%.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Right? So, I tell people that story. I'm like, I can't guarantee that's what's going to happen when we do this with you. But that was the difference that EOS made for me. And I tried different operating systems. I tried the Jack Welch strategic plan. I went through the course. I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business.
Yeah.
I did the Michael Gerber E-Myth.
Yeah.
Tried all of them. And all of those systems, while they're nice and they're good, but they're like Chevys compared to the Ferrari that EOS is.
I mean, I agree. I think it lays it out in a very easy, digestible.
Isn't that the brilliant part about it?
It is, but I also think it's good because it's easy to go back to and do again.
Oh, sure.
And then you always pick something else up doing it again. Or, I forgot about this and I'm not doing this. And you find that hole in your business without necessarily having to spend a lot of time and energy to identify that. So for me, that's been the biggest help for me. I almost like the analogy I gave one time is I almost felt like it was the first time I ever was able to look at my business from 30,000 feet, and visually,
step out of it.
Visually, because I'm always in it and not really, able to kind of think about the structure behind it. And, reading Traction was the first time I ever felt like, number one, it was a business, because I always thought like a business as like this, this big company with all these employees. I never thought about it from me because I worked for another company.
Right.
But when the moment it kind of clicked, like I'm a business within, right?
Sure.
Like I think that was the mindset that really kind of led me down the path that it did. And I think, that was really, now let me ask you this. So as many times as you meet with businesses and you have these conversations, is there ever a theme that you kind of have like that consistently comes up over and over again for people? Or is it pretty much all over the place based on the personalities? Is there something that kind of always is, kind of at the forefront?
There's quite a few things, right? And depending upon the individual's personality, why they started the business, will be their biggest challenge to overcome.
Yeah.
Let's face it, right? Maybe you've experienced this. I think that our greatest strengths also turn into our greatest weaknesses.
I say what you just said is what I say to my team all the time. Yeah.
Right.
I say it about me personally. And my biggest strengths are also my biggest weaknesses. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And helping people, business owners realize that one of the things that we like to say is delegate to elevate, and being able to let go of the vine, because we will be, as business owners, the biggest and greatest bottlenecks preventing us from that growth, which then ties into something that we talk about, hitting the ceiling.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you bust through the ceiling? And what are those disciplines necessary that will allow us to become comfortable to be able to delegate, so we can get into our unique, and I'm going to change the verbiage a little bit here, geniuses.
Yeah.
Because we all need to operate in that strength, and then that will allow us to mitigate that weakness that becomes our greatest weakness because of that strength.
Yeah.
So there's a discipline that we take the teams through that will help them be able to let go of that vine. So a quick story. A client in our industry that we're talking about now, real estate, we started early on in the journey, and as we were doing the first couple of sessions, we call them sessions, they last all day long. This person would randomly, in the middle of what we're doing in the meeting, get up and leave, just leave unannounced. I'm like, okay, where's this person going? And the team would say, well, there's so much going on, MZ, that he needs to go take care of this. He has to go do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So now fast forward 6-9 months after we start implementing EOS, we have the rhythm, doing the meetings. We're at a quarterly meeting, and the individual early on says, MZ, I just have to tell you, what a difference this has made for me.
Yeah.
I can now sit here and work on my business, that's the verbiage they used, all day long with confidence, knowing that I have people in place that are going to be doing these things, which is now going to allow me to work on my business. This is absolutely incredible. Now, they didn't quite say absolutely incredible. They used a few different words that I'm not going to say, but that's the difference it makes.
Do you feel like that's the freedom that a lot of people get from it, is being able to, I use quality of life a lot, using that as because
like balance of life.
Yeah, balance of life. Work-life balance. I don't like that phrase.
I don't know if it exists, Eric. I don't
like the phrase, but I think it sounds good. I like quality of life because I think that looks different for everybody.
Yeah,
and I don't know if there's ever a good balance between the two, but quality of life. I think
you're right.
Yeah, I think quality of life is you can be invested heavily in your growth, as how I think about it.
Sure.
While also being pulled away at times with family or pulled away at times for work.
And doesn't work seem like it's integrated with that too?
I think in the best scenarios it is.
Yeah, and, totally.
But again, I think it's a lot harder to achieve. And I think people always will say, oh, I want to have a good work-life balance. But I just don't. I think that's setting the expectation.
What does that mean?
I don't know. That's why I don't like saying it.
Right.
But I guess is that, when you set up a business and you go through this and you do these quarterly meetings, is that the biggest, if you were to call someone up 6 months later, is that kind of the feedback that you get?
Yeah, and 100%.
Yeah.
So if I was going to then put a definition around that quality of life or work-life balance, I would sum it up with transformation.
Yeah.
And transforming people's lives, business owners' lives, is really what it equates to. That's the bottom line. Because the clients have actually told me that that's what's happening to them, right?
Yeah.
So when they're running EOS, they're running it purely. They're gaining everything that EOS has to offer for them. What happens is it transcends into their personal lives.
Yeah.
And now these business owners are telling me, MZ, my relationship at home is better than it has been with my wife or husband, whatever. So EOS then really is about changing the business so the business owner, whether a wife or a mother or a husband or a father, now becomes better at doing that because now they're not distracted with worrying about what their business is doing or what's happening with their business.
Yeah.
And that then starts to equate throughout. What I get really excited about is transformed people transform people.
Well, I'd say actually where I wanted to go with this, I'm glad you mentioned that, is like I feel like that's the secret to all of this is like if you're impacting yourself, you're also impacting your team. And if I think it's easier for a team to buy into the vision if they're experiencing kind of the transformation as well. Because who wants to contribute into a business that only a few are having a good quality of life,
right,
where the other people are not? So I think that's the secret. I know it's not easy and it's difficult and it's probably the struggle that every business owner has, but is that kind of at the core of what, the ultimate goal of what you're trying to do is, and by meeting with the entire team? Because if it was just about the leader, you would meet with just the leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it is about working with what we call a leadership team, 3 to 7 people that are in the C-suite, if you are, whoever's marketing and sales and operations, finance, and all of that. And then once those individuals are running on the system, they're transformed, then the key and 80% of the battle is being able to cascade that down to and through the rest of the organization.
Yeah.
So everybody is running on EOS and everybody can benefit from what it has to offer. So the outcome, I really believe, is with the business and the individuals, getting them on purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if, at least for me and,
when you say
my
that
clients.
Getting on purpose, is that more like buying into your vision? Is that or is that different?
It's exactly buying into the vision.
Okay.
And the vision and that purpose being something bigger and grander than just money.
Yeah.
Right? Creating opportunity, getting that quality of life that you were talking about.
Yeah.
How about making an impact
in
the universe?
That's what I was
with
thinking.
What you're doing.
And what we're always talking about is here we are, we're helping people buy homes, which, I always tell people like around Christmas time or Thanksgiving, like because it always hits me that time is like, I think of all the time, all of my memories as a kid, obviously were living in a house and growing up and those memories with my mom and dad. And then here we are, we're helping people buy those homes.
Right.
And then sometimes we lose sight of that because it becomes like this, like, we're focused on all these other areas and we're never really focused on that. But I think it's, important to focus on those things because then it takes away, then it's not just getting a loan done.
Right.
Or closing. It's we're helping a family.
You're 100%.
And I think it took me 15 years. I mean, I always knew I was helping families, but to really, not make it about me, not make it even about the company that I worked for.
Sure.
But I think, the family is kind of the focus. Yeah. And then just kind of customer experience and all those things and kind of go backwards. And that was really what, so I'm just wondering.
Did EOS help you do that?
Yeah,
Or did that kind of happen before you read the book?
Well, I think I was kind of getting it a little bit before, but I think EOS really helped me process the thoughts and really get implemented into a system.
Sure.
So like a lot of what I do now isn't entirely different than what I've done prior to reading the book. It's just a lot more organized. Right. A lot more structured, and I'm also able to communicate it better.
Okay.
And listen, I'm not perfect. Like when it comes to, I don't run it exactly the way, Purely. Like I'm more, and I do this with a lot of things. Like if I read a book, I'll pull things that I feel apply to me.
Sure. Sure.
You know, I always say, like, I joke around with my team, like, I don't drink the Kool-Aid even at my company.
All right.
Like, I'll take what but I'm very curious.
Yeah. Sure.
And I love taking different principles and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to.
So, at EOS, you know what we call you?
Yeah.
What do we call you?
Can we say that on the
Yes, we can.
Okay.
You're a visionary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're a lifetime learner, which is very important, right? You
I'm
like to do
100% a visionary. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And visionaries really don't like the status quo. Visionaries are always looking for better ways, newer ways, the greatest, newest thing that you can do that could help you, or at least try it to see if it will help you.
So I'll tell you just how much I'm a visionary, because it's kind of
I love this.
It's kind of backfired on me a little bit. So
right? Should I get the couch out? Or are we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I was just thinking, it's funny we're talking about this. So I made the mistake. So. And we're a large company. We're a top 5 lender in the country, and I've been on these tech calls where I'm talking about the future of the mortgage business and technology. Basically for the last 20 years, we've had X amount of technology, and over the next year, they predict we're going to see in the same level that we've seen in the last 20 years in the next year.
Right.
So I'm involved in a lot of technology conversations and tech advisory boards from the loan officer standpoint for our company. Well, I made the mistake of speaking up too much about what my thoughts are, on where things should be and what we're designing isn't working.
Right.
And, I joked around. I said, I think I found my voice in the company a little bit. The problem with that is now I'm on even more calls and more, so I'm giving all these ideas, which I love.
Sure.
But I'm definitely a visionary. Like, I'm always looking for how to make things easier, how to implement it, but that can also get you lost.
So, So when you're thinking about yourself as a visionary, do you, open and honest here, right?
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes that you may get frustrated because you can see it?
Oh,
right? And then it's like, guys, come on, wait, why can't you see that? It's
my
right
wife
here.
was on a call, so it's funny. Like, again, I knew this was going to happen. So my wife was in the car with me when I was on one of the tech calls. And she's like, Eric, you sounded really frustrated. And I was like, because the problem is like tech people and engineers, they develop what we think we need.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sure. Because they have a mind. They're a visionary as well in a lot of ways.
Right.
And they're trying to solve a problem, but they're not getting the input of the way that we use it.
And we need the way that they think because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like frustrated with them on the phone. I'm like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying I want this way, and you're developing it this way, but that's why our usage is like 5% of what it needs to be.
Right.
Like, you need to do it the way that we think about it.
Sure.
So when we had a great call today, and we're finally getting there, but it's just, it's interesting how, when you're on different sides of the equation,
totally.
how that works. And on that, I'm sure in any business you have all these different visionaries where maybe they're not. I know, you shouldn't have all these different ideas, but how do you take all that? Because I think one of the things that is really good in an organization is when people feel like they have a seat at the table, as I always say.
Yes.
Whether you're,
important.
someone all the way at the bottom of the, totem pole per se, versus all the way at the top. Like, you need to give everyone, we just had a meeting here on Friday where we did a lot of that, where we started off, I was trying to get feedback, we weren't, so then we broke up into groups, and we're like getting,
good for you. Yeah.
So, and by the end of the meeting, we had probably like 30 or 40 action items. If I got on a call and asked what we needed, nobody would have spoke up.
Sure.
But the way we did it and how we did it and the way we thought about it, a lot came out. So, like, is there something to be said about giving people a seat at the table, if that makes sense? Or is that dangerous?
Well, I think it's important that everybody has equal voice and needs to be heard, right?
Yeah.
So I think in organizations, especially larger organizations, and as organizations grow, there's a term called the Iceberg of Ignorance.
Okay.
All right? So as a leader and maybe having a seat at the table with other leaders of the organization, we only see roughly 4% of what's going on truly in our organization,
Yeah.
right? 96% of it is underwater in that iceberg.
Yeah.
And somehow we need to, and this is what EOS will help with and cascade it down through the organization, allow those people to be able to have that voice that's needed for what they see that needs to change.
Yeah.
Now, you experienced it at the leadership level. You can flip the iceberg the other way, where the engineer, the technician, if you will, is only seeing 4% of their world. They don't see the 96% of the other world. And what you are trying to do as the visionary is bring to light that friction and that pain point of where that bottleneck is so it can get fixed and it's going to be usable and workable.
Do you think sometimes they don't want to know the 96% though?
So we talk about right people, right seats, right? And to have a successful organization, it starts with being open and honest.
Have you ever met with someone and said, you're the problem and this isn't going to work?
I have.
Okay.
I've had those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I have stopped meetings with visionaries, sent everybody out of the room. We went for a walk. And basically had to say, listen, you're better than this. And you need to open yourself up to hear what your team is trying to express to you, because there's point and there's value there. Now, you don't have to agree with everything that they're saying, but set the standard and the pace to at least listen. You don't have to respond to everything.
One of the things I say a lot is sometimes the best opportunities come out of conflict, meaning getting things to the surface, and it may get really uncomfortable.
It might. Let's look at conflict, right, for a second. What is conflict? Conflict is nothing more than communication. Like what we're doing here, right? We just don't do conflict well a lot of the time.
Well, some people, I think, avoid it.
They do. And if you can build a culture where it's you and me, it's Eric and MZ versus whatever the issue is, right? That's where the conflict is. Now, we may be coming at it slightly different, but when we can be open to hear each other and build off of what's being said to throw out ideas, that conflict now is not friction, right? It's communication. So how do you find a way to make that conflict where it's nothing more than we're communicating? And we keep the focus away from us and on the issue.
Some of my best relationships were grown out of initial conflict.
Anything you can share?
Well, so like we're in the mortgage business. So, the worst comes out in people when they buy a home. The worst.
It's emotional, isn't it?
It's all emotion. And like one of the things I always have to explain to my newer loan officers is you can't take it personal. And sometimes we're people pleasers. We want to please everyone.
Oh, sure. We want to be liked.
Exactly. Like, and the moment, it's easy to make the phone call when your loan's approved. But I feel like you're a good loan officer when you can do that. You're a great loan officer when you can handle the conflict.
Right.
Okay?
Sure.
And it's something that I can't teach someone to do because it's extremely uncomfortable. Or if a realtor calls you and says, I'm really upset with you, this borrower called me and they're upset. It's framing that conversation to know that you have a good team, you have a good process. In a lot of ways, you have to defend your team.
Sure.
Because if the moment you say you give in to the conflict, at least I feel like you can address the conflict while also being supportive of your team and really focusing to your issue on the problem and talking through it. And I feel like I've had it where a realtor has, gotten information from the client, not understanding the situation. They were upset. We had a conversation. It was a respectful conversation. But if I would have thrown my team under the bus and let them take that, I think the relationship would have went one way. But because I, hey, listen, I just want to give you a heads up on this is what happened. My team, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is why we did this. now they're seeing me in a different light, and it's showing the value of my team versus in just a complaint.
It's the communication part right there, right? It's conflict is communication.
I just had this conversation yesterday.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
And I with a loan officer, and I said, you know, you handled it the wrong way, and you gave the narrative that they gave you more legs to, you know, kind of create. And if you would have just ended it,
sure,
and explained, and this is why we did it, and this is why we do this, and I know maybe you didn't want it that way, but this is why. Now that person's going to see you in a different light,
sure,
and be like, oh wow, I really like that. That's what I want him to do. Like,
right.
I just think that's when I say there's an opportunity there, that's where I really feel like.
Do you think that for conflict, finding a way to diffuse it is really the great place to start?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
of course,
isn't that the key? So then everybody can put their guards down?
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes what does that mean? Sometimes you just have to let somebody vent.
And listen,
and be okay with it.
I'm just like everyone. I take it personal too.
Right.
And like I've handled plenty of things wrong, but when I've done it this way, I've had much better outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, with what I do, there's some teaching and coaching that goes along with it. And having to tell people that, if they're going to get what they want, they really want to get there as quickly and as easily or smooth as possible. There's certain things that they need to change and be out in front of in order for the team to be able to start having that discipline. So they're going to do it also.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest, what is, so let's say I reach out to you and I say, MZ, I need you to come in and handle my, I really want you to come in and coach my team and me personally. What does that look like in the near term and then over the long term for most of the people that you work with?
Sure. Well, first thing is, how much money do you have?
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Doing EOS has really turned into a bit of a ministry for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the transformation that happens running
And
this
my main
system.
reason for asking this question is a lot of people talk like they want to be, and they, but they have this, kind of perception in their head of what that looks like.
They have an ideal. Right?
Yeah,
Everybody's got an ideal of what it is.
And I used, and before we filmed, I used the word business coach and you corrected me. So like, I think that's the hesitation that a lot of us have. So you take that ideal that we have in our head and we avoid it. Okay.
Yep. Right.
What does it really look like
to run EOS?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's a great question. And, I'm glad you read the book, and reading the book is a great place to start. That only gives you a fraction of what EOS is and what I can do for teams as an implementer.
Yeah.
There's a journey that is involved in running EOS, and it takes usually about 2 years to actually implement the system. So it becomes a cadence and a discipline. Everybody's speaking the same language. Everybody is in the meetings that they need to be in.
Yeah.
They're running those meetings a certain way. Everybody knows what the purpose of the organization is, how they're going to get there. So it starts with a series of meetings that we like to say laying the foundation.
Yeah.
The meetings that we have are all day long, right? By the end of the meetings, you're exhausted. I guarantee it, right?
Yeah.
I hear it all the time from my clients. And what starts happening is those first 3 meetings that we call Focus Day, Vision Build Day 1, Vision Build Day 2, takes about 60 days, 3 meetings. We break a lot of eggs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what you think was so isn't so.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge that we have as small business owners is the biggest problem is we don't know what our problem is. Our biggest problem is we don't know what it is. And
do you feel like we know what it is, but we just don't want to admit it?
Well, that's one of the first things I tell my teams, Eric, is MZ's first rule of business, thou shalt not BS yourself.
Yeah.
So let's be truthful, right? And I'll call it out with a team where I'm like, okay, wait a minute, let's back this up a little bit, right? So, I think that sometimes we believe what isn't true, right? We do, right?
Yeah.
And we keep telling ourselves that story, that narrative in our mind, and keep playing that reel-to-reel tape over and over again, and then go, why isn't anything working?
Yeah.
Why am I stuck, and why can't I get to the next level?
Is it kind of like it's easier to say why something's not happening versus how hard it is to actually go through what the exercise you're actually talking
Yeah,
about?
what do we do about it, right?
Yeah.
What do we? So, and you even mentioned early on about the brilliance of EOS and how it's packaged together and very usable for entrepreneurial companies.
Yeah.
You know, from 10 to 300, 400 employees. It's the way it's put together. So. It's simple because of the way it's put together, but it's not
I'll
easy.
tell you, after you left here after that meeting, Julie and I changed our core values.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was just something that we had wanted to do for a little bit because when we originally did it initially, we were in a different mindset and a different level of business. And so much has changed from the last time we did it. And we both, I went home that night after you were here, and I sent Juliet an email, and I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, no, I get it. So me, her, and Tom kind of like, what are you thinking? What do you want to change? And we tweaked some things a little bit just from, that day that you were here in the office. So
well, I'm glad.
I can only imagine going through multiple workshops, like, how much.
It's pretty amazing too. Sticking with the core values, many times when I go into businesses, they say, MC, we have our core values. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a discovery process to make sure your core values are actually your core values.
Yeah.
And many a time, 2 or 3 of those core values that they thought were core values really aren't a core value when we go through this process of discovery of a true core value. The question that I have for you is, now that you have these core values, how do you make them actionable? We say they have to be verbs. Now, they don't have to be written as verbs, but now you don't want them to be just words on the wall or on a coffee mug somewhere, right? How do you make them, or how do you plan on making them actionable verbs so people are actually living them? Have you thought about it?
I mean, we do. We actually talked about it a little bit. I'm sure you have much better thoughts than we do, but we wanted to give real live examples of them in action. And as we go through, because a lot of what we have in there are things that we really believe in and that we talk about every day. We didn't just really have it as anything specific to what we wanted to kind of define.
Okay.
So for us, it's, how we train everyone, talking about it then when we have a new employee. This is why we do it.
Sure.
One of the things I always talk about a lot, and this is evident in a lot of social media right now, is everyone understands the what. So like
Simon Sinek.
Well, like how, or like, this is how you buy a house. These are the 5 steps.
Right.
Okay. But nobody understands the why.
The why. Sure.
Yeah. So it's why I need to buy now versus 6 months from now.
Sure.
Why home prices are still moving higher.
Right.
Okay. And I've developed an entire social media YouTube page around the why and not the how. Where most YouTube is, when I need
this is
something,
how you do it.
this is how you do it.
Right.
Consumer doesn't care about that anymore.
Right.
That's
totally.
not, they know how to do it. That's what they're hiring me for.
Right.
Quite honestly.
Right.
Why I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to know why I need to do it.
Yeah.
So I have focused. So that's kind of when I look at the core values. It's kind of like everyone always laughs at me because I have all these different things that I ask everyone to do.
Okay. Sounds like a visionary.
Yeah, exactly. But this is why I want you to do it this way.
Oh, right. That's so important.
Yeah. And this is why, because it creates this experience. And I kind of feel like that's where our core values are going, is kind of really in there. And I think that's why it fit more of my narrative and the way that I talk and the way that I do things. I just think it fits that significantly better than what we had previously.
And another step would be to have team members recognize other team members for when they exhibited those core values.
I love that idea, and I think we got to do a better job of that. We do a thing that's called wow moments.
Yeah, okay.
So like wow is, basically doing something that customer's not expecting, and then we do a gift card every month.
Sure.
And we've kind of gotten away from it a little bit because people weren't submitting the wow moments.
Okay.
But we have them all the time.
Sure.
So Julie and I want to go back to that. And that's kind of the idea is,
Right.
and I would give out a $50 gift card, when we have these wow moments.
Sure. Sure.
And we get an email from a client, something
Yeah.
like that. So those are the things that we want to work more on.
Maybe start incorporating them into every meeting. Well, in EOS, we have the level 10 meetings. We want to cascade those down in some form throughout the whole organization. And maybe you, at the end of the meeting or start the meeting that way of the shout outs of people just calling other people out and saying why they exhibited that core value.
Yeah.
What you eventually want to do is be able to have everybody in the organization not only be able to recite the core values. What do you have, 5, 7?
5.
Yeah, you have 5? Okay. Yeah. So I like that number because it's easy to remember what they are.
Yeah.
And then have the description under each core value. What does it mean to exemplify do the right thing?
Yeah.
Right? What actually and have 4 or 5 bullet points underneath there so everybody understands what that is.
Yeah.
Right? And you were talking about the why of purchasing a home and helping people.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, Barbie, we're going to be married 41 years in June.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it's all her, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it is. My friends who quite a few of them I respect keep telling me, MZ, you married way out of your league. So
hey, I'm in the same boat. Believe me.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were moving from our small 3-room ranch into a much larger, 3-level home, whatever. And we had a lot of property, and Barbie was pregnant with our second daughter, and we weren't selling our house as quickly as I'd like to. We were closing on the house that we were getting, and bridge loans and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I hired a new realtor at the time, and they were talking strategy and blah blah blah. And Barbie's pregnant; she's ready to burst any day, right? And I got frustrated, right, listening to what they were doing because I really didn't think they were getting where we were in the pain. You talked about the emotion that you experience in buying a house. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We're just going to stay where we're at for a while. I don't need to do this right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to cancel the deal. We'll take the house off.
Feeling,
right? I'm done. And they kind of looked at me cross-eyed, and then I glanced over at my wife, Barbie, pregnant. And she's crying. I'm like, all right, deal's back on. Right? We're going to do this right now. Right? So you got to find out that why, that purpose, really get in there to understand maybe what the pain is, what they're experiencing.
Do you find that even from a business side too, like when your team understands your why, it's much easier to, because we did, I remember when all the loan officers started with me, I had a group of loan officers I'm mentoring, and that was one of the exercises we did. And just to hear some of the stories, and I mean, things I would have known if we didn't do the exercise, but just kind of letting people kind of know that it wasn't always, I always try to explain my path because I didn't always have this great office. Like if they saw where I started.
Oh, and I love your story about how you didn't like school, right? You didn't get it, right?
I have no college degree. I struggled.
And I listen to you talk now. I listen to your passion about what you do. And
I tell these people all the time, like, I started when I was in 6th grade. I had to see a speech therapist. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
I could not speak in front of people.
Right.
All through high school, I would freeze up. Heart racing, voice cracking. And now I talk to people every day.
Right.
So it's like, I think getting uncomfortable sometimes is kind of that.
Well, that's how you grow.
Yeah.
You're not going to grow without friction.
No,
first of all,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
You're going to have to experience that. And there's a couple questions in there.
Yeah.
One is, getting everybody aligned around that purpose.
Yeah.
I want to kind of veer from that for just a second, if I can, and talk about that growth that you just explained a little bit. We're uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
We have become a society of comfort. We don't want to get uncomfortable. We expect it. We're in life, anywhere, any book. If you read the Stoics, if you read the Bible, or you read any book of any substance, where in that book, those books, does it ever say life's supposed to be easy?
Yeah.
Tell me. It doesn't.
Doesn't.
There's, right? So I think a powerful message coming out of this is that I'd like to give your listeners is be okay being uncomfortable, because that's how you're going to grow. That's the only way you're going to
I tell
grow.
my team, if it makes you uncomfortable, you need to run towards it, because that's
so good.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday has a very good book. I don't know if you've heard of Ryan Holiday.
I haven't.
The Obstacle is the Way.
I've heard of the book. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would say get it for your team and have them read it to help them get comfortable with that obstacle that you face. You have to go through it.
Yeah.
In order to be able to get on the other side.
A great book I just read, I don't know if you ever read it, was The Gap and the Gain.
The Gap. I love Dan Sullivan.
Yeah,
and
such a great book.
Yeah, and Hardy,
Yeah,
I mean,
such a great book.
What I really like about the book, I'd like to hear what you like, but I really like about how Dan Sullivan talks about the ideal. That everybody has this ideal, and we chase this ideal, and we measure ourselves against this ideal, but it's like the horizon. We're never going to get there. We're always going to be chasing it, and how important it is to pause and look at the gain of how much we've been able to obtain.
I'm the guy that's upset when I'm late to something, or my flight is delayed, or I'm always living in the gap.
Right.
And that was really hit me hard. I'm creating that stress for myself.
100%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why are you going to get mad at traffic or the people in front of you because you left 10 minutes late?
Yeah.
Right? Don't you know I have to be there? You're in my way.
Yeah.
Well, no, they don't know that. They're fine. They don't have to worry about that. That's on you. That's not on
absolutely.
them. Right?
You mentioned Barbie. I definitely want to. I always talk about spouses.
Yeah.
On this.
Sure.
One of the questions I always ask my loan officers is, do you have support at home? We talked a little bit about it and what that impact does to your overall business. Obviously, having Barbie in your life and what that's meant to you, obviously is significant. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Even my girls, I have two girls, older daughter Kaylee Rose and my younger daughter Cassidy Lee. I always had them a part of what I was doing and why I did it. As a matter of fact, Cassidy Lee was probably 4 or 5 at the time, and I took a day off from work and I was home just kind of hanging out, and I was with her, and at one point she looked at me and goes, "Daddy, what are you doing home?" I'm like, "Well, I'm with you, sweetheart. What are you talking about?" And she says, "Well, shouldn't you be at work so we can go to Disney World?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so she understood that, there was a purpose for me going to work that I would make sure that they were aware of.
Yeah.
So I think it's the whole home environment that, there's bumps, right?
Yeah.
That's the way, it goes. But, having that spouse that you can be truthful to, especially during difficult times, right?
Yeah.
Let them know what's really going on. Do you think that you're doing your spouse a service?
Isn't it so much more enjoyable, though, the ride, having that,
Oh, it's you know what? It's difficult in the time, in the moment when you have to, maybe give some bad news, difficult news. But on the other side, it's so much easier, and it is so much smoother.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you need to be open and let your spouse know what's going on. So I remember one time I was struggling with my production business, and I was sitting in our bedroom. And I was in the rocker that, we would have the kids in, as little kids, and I'm rocking back and forth.
How many kids do you have?
2 daughters.
2 daughters, okay.
Yeah, the 2 daughters, right? So they probably were at school at this time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in this rocker, and I'm rocking back and forth, right? I'm wearing this thing out. I'm going at it. I'm in our master bedroom, and Barbie walks in, right? And she sits down, right? Kind of looks at me and goes, "What's going on?" Right?
Yeah.
So I unpacked what was happening at the time. This is what she said to me. All right, I'm going to try not to cry.
Okay.
All right. She says, MZ, I understand what's going on, and I hear you.
Yeah.
But just know that if you're concerned and worried about all of this, and she's, gesturing to our house and all the things that we have and all the blessings that we have, she says, don't worry about those. Those don't matter to me. You mattered to me. And wherever you go, I'm going with you.
That's amazing.
Like, okay, who says that?
Yeah, no,
right?
I mean, that's...
But, now think about a difficult time that I'm trying to work through.
Yeah.
And to have a spouse that will release that pressure,
Yeah.
pull that lever to say, I'm with you, right? You don't have to do this by yourself.
I think that's why support means, because it's easy when things are going great.
Oh my gosh, but so easy.
Yeah, the real impact is when you're struggling and you have that, sounding board and someone that believes in you.
That sounding board, I don't go in my brain, Eric, because it's a dangerous neighborhood, right? Don't go there by yourself at least, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll hear things and I'll start making up stories.
Yeah.
I'm real good in making up stories in my brain that probably aren't true. And then I'll go on a walk with Barbie, right? And I'll start telling her what's going on. She says, so what is your brain telling you? And I, kind of go through it. She goes, yeah, have you thought about it like this, right? And she flips that switch to give me the fresh perspective of looking at it differently. And it's brilliant, right? Again, just releases that pressure, right? Pulls a different lever and changes the way that I can think. And now I can start getting creative because you can't think about the problem and solve the problem.
No,
it doesn't happen.
100% correct. I mean, I think that's the key into a lot of businesses as well.
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
totally. And, that's one of the reasons a lot of business owners want me to continue to facilitate their meetings 5, 6, 7 years down the road. When they know EOS, they want me in the room as the facilitator because they need to be having the conversations of what's going on. And I need to be facilitating, capturing what's happening, putting it on the board, thinking of the questions that they may be missing through the conversation. I had a client a couple of weeks ago I was working with, and they were going through a difficult issue, right? And they were beating this issue up and down and all around. And I'm listening, and I'm taking some notes, and I heard something said, right, by one of the leadership team members, and I went, that's it. That's it. Now, they blew right past it, right? I wrote it down and I circled it, right? Now, I'm not going to tell people what to do or how to solve the problem. That's not what I do.
Yeah.
But I stopped the discussion and I walked to the board, right, where I circled it, and I said, do you guys think that you may have something here? And I'm pointing to the issue I wrote down.
This is it.
That makes sense that you're looking for, right? And everybody's like, that's brilliant, MZ. So, we took a break after that, and the visionary came up to me and said, MZ, how did you know? How did you do that? And I said, well, as the facilitator, that's my role. That's my job. I have to be doing that because you guys are in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And if you're in the thick of it, you won't be able to solve it in the same way as having somebody who's the facilitator that's looking at it objectively. Yeah. It's almost like we talked about with the spouse, right? It's that fresh perspective that hears things that other people aren't going to hear.
So obviously you spend a lot of time working on businesses.
That's all I do.
So what does MZ do for fun?
That's all I do. What do I do for fun?
What's your passion outside of?
So I really enjoy music.
Okay.
Right. Everywhere I go, I'm having music on, and I'm very eclectic. If I like the music, I'm playing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty elaborate home theater that when we did buy the house that I was talking about earlier, right? I said, okay, we'll buy the house, but I get the basement and I do whatever I want. You can't say anything about it, right? So
that's an expensive hobby.
It's a very expensive hobby, right? So I enjoy that. I enjoy hiking and adventure.
Okay, I like it.
I think we spoke a little bit a couple years ago when I was younger. I went and climbed Mount Rainier.
It's awesome.
That was an incredible experience.
Got you really uncomfortable.
It sure did. I had no idea what I was doing. 19 people climbed with me. 3 of those people actually did summit Mount Everest.
Wow.
As we were going through the orientation, what's going on, they found out that I've never climbed before. And the climbers were asking me, MZ, so why do you choose Mount Rainier for your first climb? And, there was a picture, a pamphlet on the table, and I picked it up and pointed to the picture and go, because it didn't look this big in the picture. Right?
Exactly.
So, and this morning I had a similar discussion with a networking group that I'm in. And I was trying to explain to them, because they asked me, MZ, why would you go do something like that?
Yeah.
And the reflection that I came up with over the years is, It's about the person that I needed to become in order to even take that endeavor on.
Yeah.
Right. And it's similar to like starting EOS or starting anything new. Right. You have to be okay being uncomfortable when you start because you're just not going to be very good at it.
Yeah.
And I think that need to want to have perfection prevents a lot of people from getting started.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we as humans will support each other even more.
Yeah.
Like you talked about when somebody shares their brokenness, right? People can lean into it and go, oh yeah, well, me too. Let me tell you, I'm a little ahead of you on that one. I can share.
Yeah.
So I really like learning.
Yeah.
Where I get my energy from is helping business owners and their leadership teams. I love that. I can do that all day long.
And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, we'll make sure we put your contact information, in the description.
Right.
But is there an ideal business that you're looking for? Or like an ideal candidate that you look for? Or?
Yeah. So I just have I have a new client starting in Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not target market because I'd like to stay within 2 hours of the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
Right. But we met. We did what we call the 90-minute meeting, and I came to realize that they're my kind of people. As a matter of fact. It's a husband-wife. The husband just came back from summiting Mount Rainier.
Wow.
Right?
Look at that.
So I'm thinking, well, if I go out to Idaho, I can go out a couple days early. We can go out and do some adventures. And, then they joked, they're like, MZ, we'll take you up river. And I'm like, I don't know if I know you well enough to go up river with you just yet. Did you ever see the movie Deliverance? I don't know if I want to do that. Right? So we were joking. So I took that opportunity to help them because we got along, right? They're my people. I'm going to be able to work with them. I won't work with just anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I need my teams to run the system.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to do the work for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? That's not what I do. So, typically the businesses that have starting out maybe 10 people.
Yeah.
And on up to 300-400, you need enough resources to be able to run EOS. You need to be a certain size and have a certain revenue in order to successfully really do it and do it well. So that's usually starts around $2 million to do that. On up to, I've got clients that are doing $5.5 million. Right. And normalizing this and reality check, when I come in and start working with these businesses, Eric, it's amazing how dysfunctional they are, but also doing that amount of business and not having a budget.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Not having a budget, $500 million. And once we got it together, once we got their processes down, a budget in place, and who's in charge, and they started to do some cost analysis, they went back and they found out that several of the deals that they were working on and that they did lost them money.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole advantage of having someone like you come in and walk them through and discover those things, because most of the time, again, they
don't know what they
have no idea.
Right.
Well, I just want to say thank you. You did an amazing event for myself and the Realtor Partners, and we met through Juliet, and that event was something that was very beneficial, but also very special to me, just because it's something that I believed in.
Sure.
And I was glad to introduce to the rest of. So I just want to say thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I wanted to say thank you for coming and doing the podcast and being comfortable enough to get in a room with lights and everything and talk and go through. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself, my team, and everyone for.
I love your team.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just appreciate everything for doing that.
I feel like I've known everybody now for years and years and years, and that includes you. You're so easy to talk to.
I appreciate that.
And I love your business acumen.
Yeah.
Again, you're my type of people. Right?
Yeah.
How can I help you is really what I would say to you, just because of the way you conduct yourself, right?
Well, I appreciate that. One of the last questions we always ask, though, we gotta have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
I think I know the answer to this, but maybe you'll surprise me. But if you weren't in the business that you are and money was no object, what's kind of the dream job?
I think I'd get a bicycle with a basket.
Okay, this is not what I had initially. You're
and-
already going down a direction I didn't expect. Yeah.
I'd go down to Key West, and I'd put
now
all my
Key West. Now we're talking. So you
put
are
all-
my type of people.
I'd
Yeah,
put all my belongings
Yeah.
in that little
Yeah.
basket, and I
Yeah.
would just pedal around the island. And
that's awesome.
been
Key
talking to
West is
people
like one of
and-
my favorite places to go. So
what did you think I was going to say?
music, something music or home theater, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah,
Music.
yeah.
I just know how passionate you are about music. So
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's not loud enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun, quick story about music. So my younger daughter, Cassidy Lee, she was probably 4 or 5 at the time.
Yeah.
I was playing the Three Tenors.
Yeah.
Pavarotti was singing this song, Nessa Dorma, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
a tremendous opera song, right?
Yeah.
And I had it loud. The neighbors could hear it. I mean, it was loud, right? So now Pavarotti does his thing and it ends, right, with a big crescendo.
Yeah.
And, we're in the home theater chairs, sit back. And, she's barely can fit in the chair, right?
Yeah.
She's so young. And when it was over, she looks up at me and she goes, "Daddy, let's play that again."
So do your kids take after any of your music or business acumen?
They they take after their mom. They have
Well, that's even better.
100%. Not only are they pretty, smart, funny,
Yeah.
and talented, they have a passion for helping people.
That's
so
great.
my older daughter is has her MBA. She wants to get her PhD
Yeah.
in helping families with autistic
Wow,
children,
that's great.
teaching them. That's what
Yeah.
she's doing right now. She wants to write some papers and do some things with that,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Just absolutely amazing. And younger daughter, Cassidy Lee, is going to school to help young adults with addiction.
That's great.
Right, through it,
You got to
right?
be so proud.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making me look good, but it's all their
Well,
mom.
that's impact. We talked about impact earlier. That is
Right.
impact. So you
Sure,
know,
sure.
and a calling and a purpose. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my older daughter called me one time. How cool is it when your daughter calls you with a struggle,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
Eric?
yeah.
And she kind of telling me what's going on. And now my mind, again, I told you I kind of make some things
Yeah,
up. My
yeah.
mind goes into, oh my gosh, this is a issue that I created as a father.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I gave to her that now she's struggling with.
Yeah.
So when I asked her about it, she says, "No, Daddy, no, it's not you. You were the best daddy ever. I know your upbringing. I know some of the struggles you had, and you broke that chain.
That's
right,
amazing.
with me.
Yeah.
And I started to cry. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty amazing.
No, that is really good.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for as a father.
That's it. So
Yeah.
you've done a good job with your kids when they go see a therapist
Yeah.
for different problems than you're seeing the therapist.
Exactly. That's
Right?
exactly it.
That's it.
Well, MZ, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the
pleasure.
conversation. We got to do this again. And I appreciate you
ready.
taking the time. And
Yeah.
I look forward to, I think we have some other work to do here in the future. So I look forward to it.
Let's do it. I'm here,
okay.
ready to help.
Thank you very much.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.